They call him the Lantern Keeper, a shadow in the fog, wandering the marshlands of Grayson County long after midnight. Locals say if you see the blue light of his lantern, you never come home. Over the decades, the marsh has swallowed secrets, and those who dared enter, disappeared without a trace. Tonight, we're stepping into the heart of the legend. From teenagers who vanished on quiet dirt roads, to fishermen whose boats were found abandoned, to a filmmaker who went in search of the truth, and never came back. This is the story of the Lantern Keeper, and the chilling question remains, how much of it is folklore, and how much is something far darker? Stay with us, as we walk through the mist of Grayson Marsh, and follow the light, if you dare. They call him the Lantern Keeper. A figure who wanders the fog-choked marshlands of Grayson County long after midnight, when the only sound left in the world is the sucking breath of the swamp and the whisper of something moving just out of sight. Locals say he carries an old iron lantern that glows with a strange, flickering blue light. And they say if you see that light in the mist, you never come home. For decades, the marsh has held its silence, swallowing secrets and trespassers alike. But the story of the Lantern Keeper, that one's never really gone away. It's passed down in hushed tones at the bar, in the back booths of the diner, in the faded living rooms of people who don't dare go out at night anymore. And tonight, we're going to walk into that story, into the dark heart of the Grayson Marsh, and see just how much of it is legend, and how much is something worse. The first disappearance tied to the Lantern Keeper happened in the summer of 1989. A local teenager named Eric Dunham was last seen cutting through the marsh to meet a friend who lived on the other side. He'd taken that route a dozen times before. It was faster, and he wasn't afraid of the old stories. Eric's friend said he never showed up. The next morning, his bike was found on the dirt road that borders the swamp. The back tire was sunk halfway into the mud, like he'd stopped suddenly, or been stopped. His backpack lay beside it, untouched. But there were no footprints. No drag marks. Nothing. The sheriff's office brought in dogs. They lost the scent 50 feet in. The fog rolled in that night, thicker than anyone remembered. That's when the stories began again, the people who swore they saw a light moving in the mist that night. Not white. Not yellow. But blue, and slow, drifting between the cypress trees. One man said it looked like it was leading someone, like the light wasn't wandering, but waiting. Eric was never found. If that had been the only case, maybe folks would have chalked it up to an accident. The marsh is dangerous, sudden drops, quicksand pockets, sinkholes that open under your feet. But it didn't stop there. 2 years later, a couple of fishermen disappeared in the same area. Their boat turned up 3 days later, wedged against the roots of a cypress tree. Their rods were still in the water. One of the men's jackets was hanging from the boat's edge, sleeve torn, like he'd been pulled backward into the dark. And on that same night, a woman driving home from the next town said she saw a lantern through the fog, swinging back and forth slowly, like someone walking just ahead of her headlights. But when she stopped the car, the light vanished. She told police later, it wasn't a normal lantern. It was blue. Like the flame wasn't burning, it was breathing. Over the years, Grayson Marsh became a place you didn't go after dark. Hunters stayed out. Fishermen packed up before sunset. Even the locals who used to cut through for shortcuts now drove 10 extra miles just to avoid it. And still, every now and then, someone saw the light. The Lantern Keeper became a local legend. Parents used the story to scare their kids into coming home before dark. Teenagers dared each other to go out there, armed with flashlights and bravado. Most came back. But not all. In 2004, a documentary student from Atlanta named Jenna Mills came to Grayson County. She'd heard the legend and wanted to make it the centerpiece of her graduate project, something she called Folk Horrors of the American South. For 3 weeks, she interviewed residents, recorded audio clips, and spent nights camping near the marsh's edge. Locals said she was polite but obsessed. She'd play back her field recordings over and over in the diner, slowing them down, isolating bits of static. She claimed she could hear something under the noise, a voice. Her journal, later found in her abandoned car, described it in detail. The voice isn't random. It's rhythmic. It sounds like someone saying come back. Not come here, but come back. Like they've been waiting. She disappeared on her 21st night of filming. Searchers found her camp still standing, camera on a tripod, lantern burned out, sleeping bag empty. Her audio recorder had been running. On it, there's about 6 minutes of nothing, wind, frogs, dripping water. Then, faintly, you can hear her say, "Who's there?" A few seconds later, a splash. Then a voice, almost whispering, low, hoarse, distant. "Follow the light." The recorder clicks off right after that. No trace of Jenna was ever found. After that, no one went near Grayson Marsh without a reason. The sheriff at the time, Bill Henders, closed off the trails around it, citing safety concerns. He told the press, "It's a dangerous place. That's all it is. Don't make it something it's not." But off camera, people said he wasn't so sure. His own brother, Raymond, had gone missing out there in 1997 while scouting deer stands. When asked about it years later, Bill refused to speak his brother's name. Some folks said that's why he quit 2 years after Jenna's case, because he started seeing the light too. The strangest story came from a man named Oliver Tate, a park ranger who briefly worked the wetlands after the area reopened in 2010. Oliver wasn't from Grayson. He didn't grow up hearing the stories. To him, the marsh was just another job, mapping, checking boundaries, logging wildlife. But one night, he was out doing rounds when his radio started picking up something odd. Static at first. Then, faint humming. He thought it was interference from the nearby river traffic until he heard words. He later described it like this: "It was like someone was whispering right beside my ear, but I couldn't make out the words. Then I realized, it wasn't English." That's when he saw the light. He said it wasn't floating, it was walking. Like someone carrying it. The figure was tall, draped in something long, maybe a coat. The light swayed as it moved, casting long shadows that stretched over the water. Oliver called out. The figure stopped. He tried to radio for backup, but his device went dead. When he looked up again, the light had turned toward him. And then, it started moving faster. He ran. By the time he reached his truck, he could still see the glow through the trees, like it was pacing him. It didn't stop until he crossed the old wooden bridge at the county line. He quit that week. When asked later if he believed it was human, he said quietly, "I don't think it was alive." People have tried to explain the lantern keeper. Some say it's swamp gas, phosphine igniting in the mist, creating ghost lights called will-o'-the-wisps. Others claim it's the spirit of an old ferryman who died there in the 1800s, still trying to guide travelers through the fog. But there's one story that comes up more than any other. In 1883, there really was a man who lived in the marsh, a recluse named Elijah Marin. He worked as the caretaker for the old ferry crossing before the bridge was built. People said he was quiet, strange. Never went into town. When the ferry sank one night during a storm, Elijah was the only one who survived. 7 others drowned, men, women, and a child. The bodies were never recovered. A week later, Elijah vanished too. His cabin was found empty, a single lantern burning on the table. Old-timers believe he never left, that his spirit still roams the marsh, lantern in hand, searching for the souls he lost. But others say it's darker than that. That Elijah didn't lose them, he took them. Even now, there are reports. Campers who hear footsteps in the fog. Hunters who spot a flicker of blue light through the trees. Drivers who see a shadow move along the bridge just before dawn. And once in a while, another disappearance. Always the same way, no trace, no noise, no struggle. Just, gone. The sheriff's office has long stopped taking statements about it. But every year on the anniversary of Jenna's disappearance, someone leaves a lantern at the edge of the marsh. No one knows who does it. No one ever sees them. But if you go there late enough, and the air's still, you can see it. That faint, cold blue light hovering above the reeds. Sometimes it sways, like it's being carried. Sometimes it stays perfectly still, like it's waiting for someone. People say if you stare too long, you'll see shapes moving inside the fog, figures walking toward you, pale faces, wet clothes, silent mouths whispering something you can't quite hear. And if you listen closely, just before the light disappears, you might hear it. A voice from somewhere deep in the mist, saying softly, "Come back." Because maybe the lantern keeper isn't searching for the lost. Maybe he's searching for you.